The Mark Cox Show. Good to be with you. Annie Fry filling in for Mark. You can follow me at Annie Fry Show on Twitter, but make sure you check out 971talk.com/Cox and also facebook.com/The Mark Cox Show so that you can stay up to date with everything going on with The Mark Cox Show all the time. You don't want to miss it. So we're going to be joined now by Michael Bekesha. Michael Bekesha is with Judicial Watch, and he's an attorney on the case right now. This is a really interesting story. Michael, thank you very much for joining the show. We appreciate you having you.
Thanks for having me.
So I would like you to kind of lay out the land and explain, what did Judicial Watch do? You sent questions to Hillary Clinton about her email situation, but lay it out there for us so that we can understand the direction that you're taking with this, and also what you plan to do with the information that you got in the future.
Sure, absolutely. So, a couple of years ago, Judicial Watch sent a FOIA request to the State Department. That's a Freedom of Information Act request. We asked for records related to Huma Abedin, who is the Deputy Chief of Staff and Hillary Clinton's personal aide, how she was able to get this special deal where, while she was still working for the State Department, she could also work for the Clinton Foundation and Teneo and all of these other organizations and, take paychecks from all these different places. Part of our request was looking for emails of Hillary Clinton. We didn't receive any, and we dismissed the lawsuit. We then learned about a year and a half ago that Mrs. Clinton was not using State Department email accounts. She had her own email account set up.
Mm-hmm.
And so we reopened this lawsuit, and throughout that process, we started arguing to the court, hey, it looks like Mrs. Clinton and the State Department deliberately thwarted FOIA. That, she set up this special system so that none of her emails would be made public. And the court agreed with us. The court thought that there was enough evidence to seem to suggest this was the case, and he would let us go find more answers. And so we deposed 7 current and former State Department employees, including Huma Abedin, Cheryl Mills, and Brian Pagliano. And then we still had more questions, so we asked the federal judge if we could ask questions of Mrs. Clinton. And he agreed, and so in August we submitted 25 questions to Mrs. Clinton, and just last night, she answered the 25 questions under oath.
Perfect. So when you got the answers back, was it what you expected, or did you find out any new information, or what was the reaction to her answers?
Yeah, we didn't really find out any new information. We got a couple bits and pieces here and there, but, it wasn't really surprising. I didn't expect for her to answer much. And like Mrs. Clinton and, her husband do, they answer questions in the most lawyerly way possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, we asked 25 questions, and at least 20 times she said, I don't recall. So, we're talking about things that happened between 4 and 7 years ago, and she simply just couldn't recall anything. She couldn't remember if she talked to anybody, if she thought about the issues. Simply she couldn't recall anything. And so it wasn't really surprising, but it was really disappointing because Mrs. Clinton continues to say that it was a mistake and that she wouldn't do it again. Well, she's never really fully answered questions about why she did it and why she thinks it was a mistake and why she wouldn't do it again. And this was her opportunity to, provide information to us, but also to, share with the American public what exactly she did wrong and why she did it, and she's just simply refused to do that.
So what's the next step now that you have her answers, or maybe even more apropos, non-answers? Do you move forward with what you have? Do you stop? I mean, I feel like the Clinton people are saying she answered him the same way she's been answering him for basically years now. Nothing new has come out. She's been consistent. So what's the next step?
Yeah, as I said, we got these answers last night, so we're still taking a look. We're still evaluating them. Probably the next step for us is on October 24th, so in a little less than 2 weeks. We're deposing another former State Department official. His name's John Bentel, and he was in charge of the IT department for the Secretary's office while Mrs. Clinton was Secretary of State. So we have lots of questions to him about what he knew, or maybe even what he didn't know while she was Secretary of State. And after we take that deposition, we get his testimony, we have some time to review Mrs. Clinton's answers, then we'll see what the next step is. But, based on what I've seen so far and how we compare it to some of the evidence we've gathered, her answers don't really seem all that credible.
Right. I'm looking through here. I have all 25 questions and all 25 responses listed here, and you almost have to be a lawyer to understand all of the ways that she's avoiding answering any of the questions. Like, I can sit here, I'm not a lawyer, I don't play one on the radio, but I can see how she's not answering all these questions with legalese. And then, as you said, the final response is, here's all the legal reasons I'm not going to answer, why I'm not going to answer. And then she says, but I don't recall blah, 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 blah. And so it seems like there's minimal cooperation here. I guess the fact, like you said, Hillary and Bill are both educated lawyers. It probably helps them quite a bit, and they're surrounded by lawyers as well. So go ahead. They're
being represented. Mrs. Clinton's being represented by David Kendall. He's the one that signed it, and he helped Bill during impeachment hearings. And he goes back to their Yale days at law school. So Mr. Kendall's been working for the Clintons for 20-plus years. He knows how to do what they want done, and that's what happened here. As you were just saying, looking through the answers, there's one point, I think it's like question 4, where Mrs. Clinton says she doesn't recall having any communications about her decision to use the Clinton email account to conduct official government business. But then in the very next question, she says that Colin Powell advised her about his use of personal email to conduct official government business. Now, she remembers he advised her, but doesn't remember if they had any conversations about it. So I'm not really quite sure how he could have advised her if they never communicated in any type of way about it.
Yeah.
So they're just very lawyerly answers that aren't straightforward and, really do a disservice for not only the rule of law, but the American public.
Well, we appreciate yourself and Judicial Watch continuing to put the pressure on the Clintons, Hillary specifically in this case, because not many people willing to put the pressure on the Clintons these days. And as your website says, nobody is above the law, and the Clintons should not be exempt from that either, especially if they want to run this country once again. So we appreciate your efforts, and we hope that you continue to push and hopefully find what you're looking for and maybe get some actual answers out of them for once.
We hope so. Thank you so much.
That was Michael Bekesha with Judicial Watch. He's an attorney on this case. It'll be interesting to see if they come up with anything. As a non-lawyer looking at all these questions and answers, Mark actually forwarded this email to me last night, and he was talking about it a little bit. But it's just amazing how evasive they are. And in the email that I read earlier in the show, Hillary Clinton didn't want to talk to the press for months after she announced that she's going to be the president or wants to be the president. If I'm going to elect a president, I want to feel like they've done everything they possibly can to take the true pulse of America, not have an agenda that's preconceived where they walk into the presidency and they have all these things that they want to do because they have a legacy that they want to fulfill, and then they do what they have to do by raising enough money. And in Hillary Clinton's case, she raises boatloads of money from Wall Street, and then she turns around in stump speeches and she says contradictory things there. It's like, how do you trust this person? It really baffles my mind. So Judicial Watch is on the case, which is good because they're dealing with some of the most experienced at a high level lawyers that we have in this country, and it is not the email situation. Is it ever going to go away? Are people ever going to stop caring? If she gets elected, are we just going to stop investigating these issues, these scandals? I don't think so, but I think there's too many people in America that are interested in making sure that she isn't above the law. But if she's the president, what kind of power does that give her to continue to evade the rules and regulations that she, as the executive of this country, puts us little people underneath?